Okay, thank you very much for everyone's patience. Call the meeting to order. Let's have a roll call of Tom, Bernie, Dave, Pat, Stuart, and Jerry are all present. Any citizens? Oh, we have 3 people. Just joking. But welcome, this is the May 29th Finance Committee meeting. First order of business, citizen participation, and we don't have anybody present, so we'll move on. Approving the meeting minutes of April 22nd. May I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Motion is made and seconded. Do I have any questions or concerns? Any corrections?
Nope.
Okay, the motion is to move to accept the minutes as printed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's a vote.
I abstain.
Stewart abstains. He was not present. First thing on the Finance Committee matters is the application of CPC to upgrade the Hammond School playground. Now that's, I talked to Derek regarding this issue, and apparently there's still some ongoing discussions relevant to that. Now this is a situation where selectmen have a policy that any application by a town department to CPC has to be approved by the Finance Committee and the selectmen to apply to CPC. And because of the ongoing discussions within internal workings of the town hall, I will move on with that. Is there any questions though concerning it?
Is it gonna come back to us?
It will. Derek has also requested the selectmen, because it's a policy, not part of our charter or bylaws, that they do away with it. It seems redundant in that the system, that is to say Derek's, as well as the selectmen, approve the fact that a department wants to go forward with a request to CPC, and then again they come back to the selectmen and the Finance Committee for approval a second time. So it's kind of redundant, and it doesn't give them sufficient time really to make a thorough internal evaluation of what they want to do.
Okay, there's 4 buckets in the CPC. Could we, before we vote next time, find out the amount in each bucket?
Oh, yes, you want
Okay,
to, you want
that's
to,
part, you know,
right, you want a budget, how they
yeah,
disperse it, all the funds, yes.
We've kind of asked for it several times and haven't received balances.
I'll make sure we get one.
What do you need?
The CPC has 4 buckets. I'd like
Yeah.
to know the balance in each bucket.
That didn't go before the town meeting?
Yes, it did.
But-
But in town
With-
meeting though,
With
they.
how much for each of the various,
Before
Before
there
the-
was some stuff approved at the town meeting, I'd like to know what's in it now, you know?
Yeah,
What the
town meeting
balance is.
approved a certain percentage of the amount that they receive goes into each category. I don't think they came up with a number, because it depends upon what the state determines to contribute also.
I have a question on this. What we're voting on, or we would be discussing and voting on whether or not to allow this to go before CPC. Now, I would think that, and then even if the details aren't finalized at this point, that it would be appropriate to let that go forward and let the town, in this case, it's the town of Wareham is sponsoring it, go before CPC, finalize their application, go before CPC and ask for the money. That would give them more time to discuss it before the selectmen and also, if it's approved, the Finance Committee.
Well, if I understand you correctly, excuse me, we would be reviewing an incomplete document. And the alternative is what we should be doing, is reviewing a complete document that they intend to go forward to CPC. Because they're actually looking for permission to go, so it must be finished prior to going forward.
All right.
In this case, it apparently, from their point of view, it is, because there's a lot of documentation here. However, it's a little premature because the Discussions internally have not been completed as yet.
All right, I'm just concerned that it's going to scrunch the time at the other end. When we don't get down to the details, but,
Well, there can't be, nothing can be done really as far as the vote is concerned until fall town meeting. That's the only time
Right.
it could appear. And I think we have sufficient time. We just finished the last one.
I know there's never enough time.
Yeah, and Derek, did you want to speak at all on this? This is the CPC application.
For which one? We've got a few in here. We've got
This
one,
is Hammond Playground.
Hammond Playground, that is premature. They came forward with 650,000. I asked them to, I told them that I did not think that this should go forward for the fall town meeting due to the cost, and frankly, what we've seen for other playgrounds, we've been going between 200, 250,000. They've been raising some funds. I think it's an excellent idea. However, this should probably be multi-phase or something that shouldn't be jammed in at the end. I say that respectfully because there's a group putting a lot of hours into it. Tom knows, he's probably yelled at a few times. They have a real nice vision, but there's gonna be a lot more to this playground and the surrounding that needs to be worked out. We're putting 50,000 from the parking funds into the tennis courts and the basketball court that's already there, which is separate from this request. The Lopes Playground, CPC put 75,000 into that for just the engineering, and there's some funds left. So I'm feeling this is sort of spiraling, and I'd like it to take a step back, and I understand it'll probably make some folks upset, but the viability for this project going forward, I don't even think at 450,000 you get it through town meeting with what we've been seeing, and I can tell you, just a variance of a couple 10,000 from one neighborhood playground to the other causes a lot of anger of folks. So.
Did I understand you that we are gonna do away with the permission to make the application for CPC?
No,
You didn't say that.
no, it was the policy change that.
That's a
that
worthy
rescinded.
thing to start to consider rather than have.
Oh, no, it's
Selectmen,
just-
no, I mean,
No, what I was referring to is currently, requests such as these have to come to the finance committee and selectmen just to say, yes, they can go to CPC.
yeah.
And that
We're
is
not
kind
doing
of,
away with that.
it's up to the selectmen, it's their policy.
I think, Tom, you might have heard, thank you, I sent a request out to them, I just think it's redundant, if you will.
You're
That
right.
we get the permission ahead of time and such. Part of the thought was, a couple of years ago, there were some applications that popped in, but if it's for town property and it doesn't come through the town administrator, it's not a viable application anyway, so it would be denied. Because it can only be the owner of the property that submits the application. And given the CPC deadline of 3 years and 6 months before a town meeting, you need to apply. I think it's the timeline, this sort of spikes the timeline even more.
Any further questions? Okay, let's move on then.
Bernie, I do have the open space and Shangri-La playground that they're proposing. This one is 220,000. It's, so open space has brought it forward. This is an application between the sponsoring organization is Open Space Committee, Sandy Slavin Chair, who I'm assuming she's going to have to abstain on CPC votes then, but I'd like to bring this forward. And this is what's gonna really upset the onset playground folks, but this is sort of more in line, and we have been working with Shangri-La for about 2 years now, taking down a lot of the equipment that's already existing there. And that is such a densely populated neighborhood. That is, they've got some real beautiful amenities with the pond and such, but outside of that, there's really not much. So if I may,
Yes.
move forward.
Thank you.
So the Sandy is out west with Alan, so I don't know if you'll call that a vacation if they're still together. You have project description here, what they're going through. This is, if you've, I don't know if you've ever been up there. It's essentially what looks like an old drainage ditch, a fairly large, almost.
Bombed area.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it does look like a bomb went in there. So part of what they're looking to do is fix some of the drainage, to keep it away from the playground area and really create a nice spot. We've gone back and forth. They are trying to remove the existing basketball court, and it's seen better days, and do a couple different moves, such as building a new one where the current baseball field is. They're gonna fence in the whole area. The neighborhood is going to take ownership on this, believe it or not, of locking it at sunset and opening it up in the morning. Because one of the things we told them was, I say in all honesty, I can't dedicate police officers to do that, or put staff on overtime to do something like that. They've had some activity that's been negative in there, such as drug activity that the neighbors are really trying to push out. They've established a large neighborhood watch, and it's really, that's one of our areas that's on the rise, and I think this would be a really big win for them and make it even better. And I think we have a substantial amount of children from this community, so, part.
So basically, as I've outlined with the previous one, you're just looking for the committee to say that it's okay to go forward to
Yeah.
apply to CPC?
Yeah, and I apologize, this is sort of why you're getting it now, it's not really the formalized, but it's something that I think it's okay. The $220,000 project, Mark brings it in line with the things that we've seen, like the Lukey playground.
What did we authorize for Lukey?
I thought it was 170, if I remember, but it's a few
Yeah.
years ago, and they did some fundraising as well.
Right.
This group has a lot of people getting together on it. They even have somebody willing to donate cameras that can be repeated and linked to the police station for the.
They do have a very strong neighborhood organization
Yeah.
there.
So,
So I understand that the overall cost is gonna be more than 220, but that there's local participation.
right, the total ask from CPA is gonna be, or from the CPC is gonna be 220,000 eventually. That'll be what's brought before town meeting.
And the process is, we approve this, selectmen approve it, they submit it, then it comes back to us?
Yeah. You don't like bureaucracy? So it's sort of why I have my 5 minutes and sent out an email, can we please just do away with this? So,
And just to be specific, you're looking for approval for the Shangri-La playground,
Correct.
nothing to do with the Hammond.
yes, I do believe we need to do something at the Hammond.
Okay.
There's been a lot of good work. I just think it's gonna be an actual redesign, and if there wasn't such a strong push, and even though it would cost more, frankly, I'd redesign the whole thing, including moving the tennis courts and how it'd be redone, because we're going to want some parking in there that is not related to the beach, that's just for the playground, and, but there's a strong community push to get that section done, and I'd love to give them the win that we've already approved. And then realistically, we want to try and create almost a walking path between the Hammond Playground area, which is almost all of Hammond School, the C.W. Bishop Park, that's right next to the parking lot, and which is also known as Temple Street parking lot. Clear out that park area, and by clear out, I mean taking the scrub trees out, doing some better plantings, and creating a walking path that leads down to Lopes and back, and have it as one big connection of just sort of a nice recreational area back and forth. So I think it's going to be a really big win, but I don't want to push it just for the sake of getting it done and then not getting it done and possibly the whole manor. And I'd love to see this be more of a community. I'm speaking about the Hammond one, more of a community build as well.
Put some volleyball stakes in the beach, would you?
Well, it's
On the beach?
on the volleyball ones.
In a volleyball net, yeah.
Well, we'll do a one-on-one, Tom. If you win, I'll do that. And I'm guessing with my shape, you're gonna win really easily right now. So.
But that beach could be a,
The width of the beach allows for much further back towards the bluffs and such. I could see that. There's some nice things changing that I really, you know, and as we've brought the town sort of back in line, got the finances in order, had a bigger hole, that's when you can start bringing sustainable amenities back. And that's what we've been saying since day one. It's always been you have to basically get a handle on your situation, your own finances, before you can make things better. And I think we're seeing the better things.
I think this is addressing the neighborhoods, which are important sections of the community, and make it a whole piece.
And I think we had something like 18 playgrounds in town, and we want to meet with open space and shrink down to more, you know, some of the main neighborhood playgrounds, and not necessarily the tucked away ones. The one behind 48 Marion Road, the multi-service center, we've removed all that, and we're working with Selectman Bruce to create a senior garden in that location. So we'll do some tree removal and do some plantings so the seniors over at the multi-service center can have some of the fresh vegetables and stuff, and really bring that forward. So, and these are, some of those are the, you know,
The little things, but they.
yeah, and it's part of developing the community spirit.
Mhm. Okay, any other questions, concerns?
No, I recommend that we send this forward.
Have a motion to forward Shangri-La Playground to CPC
Yes.
for approval.
I move that.
Stuart moves, may I have a second?
second.
Tom second. Any other questions or concerns? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's a vote.
Stuart's saying, we're just gonna do it, because it doesn't matter, we're gonna come back and talk about it.
Do it. Can we fix that?
But you're gonna do away with this, right? I mean, the two-step.
Yeah, it's my goal, it's,
Good, good.
you know, I'm just a simple servant to the board, so. Thank you, I don't think there's,
No, there's nothing else. You can go home early tonight if you want.
Say, Derek, would you give us an update on the band show? You know, it was supposed to be,
yeah, we got some sad news on that, we did not get the Mass Cultural grant that we applied to add for that, so we're gonna meet with Cat Jones and some of the other folks and see how we move forward.
Well, that's
oh,
a-
so it's a stall right now then?
Well, at least for this season till
This
the,
season, yeah.
to the fall, and I think this is Kat's time when she ramps up, and,
Right.
I mean, she's got more energy than the Energizer Bunny, but it's,
It's catchy.
yes.
I know the docks, are they finished with the install?
Yeah, they are finished with the install, came in early, on budget, I apologize, I don't have the exact number for you, but they're really sharp, they came in nice, I'd say go down, take a look at it, it's a nice community amenity,
Yeah.
so.
And then the other construction that they're going to hold or stop for the summer, you know?
Yeah, so you're talking about the onset bathhouse?
Yeah,
It's
the
gonna be
bathhouse.
Yep, that's gonna be stopped, they should be finishing up now, that was we said they had to be done basically towards mid-June, because it starts, especially July 1. It's, you know, you can see it's ramping up more and more, but once you hit July, then, you know, they can't be anywhere near the beach.
No, all kinds of complaints.
The kayak person, they're going to actually have a little sort of shed for him, so he can do some of the kayaks. He asked for us to do something on the beach. In the meanwhile, I frankly said no, just because I think would stir up too much ire for the meantime, and maybe he'll miss a few weeks, but I don't think it'll be the end of the world. So.
One last question. JC Engineering's been surveying the hell out of Glen Charlie Road for the last 2 weeks. Do you know what that's about?
No.
No? Really? What they gonna put in their sewer?
On Glen Charlie?
Yeah.
No, I will tell you without a doubt, we will not be putting sewer on Glen Charlie, the cost of that. So.
Okay, but you do know what they're surveying for.
No,
You
no,
just-
I don't.
Really, you don't? You know what's going on.
I couldn't play poker, I guess,
I
right?
guess not.
So,
That's what the surveyor said too, that we're just getting paid to do a day's job. We don't know what's going on or who's paying us.
you think I should use that line?
It didn't work for them.
When do you start to feel the impact of Cranberry Highway?
This fall.
Oh, not till the fall?
We were in discussions today where it looks like they might be doing a three-pronged phasing, starting off towards, basically you call the Home Depot, and from the side from that end down. There is an amazing amount of work coordinating with Comcast, Verizon, Open Cape Network, Eversource. Now AT&T has lines on there. Our streetlights, the new streetlights, just on moving the poles along. So they're going to be moving on the poles pretty soon, but it is such a complicated project. I can't believe it. But we're having bi-weekly meetings, and if you remember, I don't know, back in 2012, that project was to span down to the bridge, basically leaving over to Bourne and Onset at a $12 million price. Today it cuts off at Red Brook Road at $18 million. It's unbelievable, the skyrocketing costs.
Does it make sense?
Does it make sense?
Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah,
We
besides-
could go all night on it.
Besides the loss of, I guess, pedestrian life on there, the amount of accidents, there's people that won't travel that road in the summer, frankly, just because of it. We had one of our own selectmen sitting at the stoplight that got rear-ended, I think it was at 35 plus miles an hour, just sitting there. And it's a scary place. Unfortunately, it's going to negatively impact businesses. Could be a 3+ year process.
But when you get all those people involved,
But when it's done at the end of the day, you'll have a safer, and I honestly think a potential better route for the businesses. There will be the turnarounds at some of the spots, and it will lead to something I truly believe better for the businesses, and it's going to clean up the look of Cranberry Highway too, which is a big element of it.
And it'll be safer.
It will be safer.
you know, as I always plan on my shopping, it's gonna be on one side of the road or the other side of the road. If it's the other side, I go tomorrow,
Yep. What's the next?
or the next day. Yeah, I'm retired, I can wait down. Any other questions while we have our victim here? None? Thank you very much, Derek.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So,
Always appreciate your openness with us.
have a wonderful, except Stuart.
May I have one other question? What happened with 40B project? What is the status of that?
I believe they're still going forward through their funding, they'll have to get their credits and stuff. There's going to be, it's essentially 3 different projects as well, the number 3 is the big theme tonight. And the reason for that is their funding, so each phase of that, believe it or not, is a different LLC. And so you'll have phase 1, which establishes, I think it's going to be roughly about 70 to 80 units or so. It's going to probably seem like nothing's happening, and then it's going to spike overnight, is the way it looks. We've not been notified of any, that they have received their credits or any notifications that they're moving forward, but they have done all the requests for sewer, for everything along the way. These guys have come in some other towns, gotten the approvals, and it sat for a few years and moved forward. It's probably just depending on their own financing ability to move forward and what credits are available. So, but it's going to come,
All right.
It's inevitable.
yeah.
What about,
No.
what about those 2 bridges?
Which,
They are talking about the 2 bridges.
Over the
again
Cape?
on, yes. How much is that going to affect us?
that's another
What they
world.
want to do,
What they wanna do, how much that's gonna affect us?
yeah.
Well, it'll probably mean people stop going to the Cape and they're all gonna realize how wonderful Wareham is.
Stop it.
Now's our time to sell Wareham, right? Pitch it.
That's right.
Yeah, but they had that big thing on TV the other night about the 2 bridges.
They've been
Next time
talking-
I see the governor, I'll ask him.
Yeah. They keep on talking, I don't think any of us in this room will be here before they even dig one shoulder.
I don't know.
They're going to replace with larger, the goal is with larger structures. You know, especially so that in the future, not just for the traffic going over, but so that when it's time to perform maintenance, you can shut down and have a maintenance lane without doing major shutdowns for the bridges. Because I remember coming down in the spring, the little signs that tell you the time to get to the Cape. And this is while they're doing the work. Cape's 24 miles away, 45 minutes to get there, so.
We'll just go across the bridge any morning or any afternoon during the work week and
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
up.
They'll have to construct bridges before they even close and consider
So they might put
turmoil on the
They might
Cape.
put a 3rd bridge
Business
over,
would go broke
Yeah.
on the Cape.
And they are talking about the 3rd bridge.
possibility.
Yeah.
Yes,
They were
I
talking
heard
today,
that too. The 3rd bridge.
yeah, they were talking today on the radio, the millions of dollars last year that the Cape collected through tourism.
They're probably they're gonna do it from your property, Tom, over.
Yeah.
Okay, I just had asked the question, you know.
No, thank you.
I would double deck the bridges.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We're gonna move on.
All right.
They did that in New York, didn't they?
Yeah, long time ago.
It's just eliminated all the problems.
Yeah, a lot of good that did, huh?
Thank you again, Derek.
Yeah. Just use the phone.
Good morning. Mike,
Don't tell me this.
Oh,
Have a good night.
that's what it was, yeah, okay.
I'm not leaving, my blood's still a little thin
guess you
from
have to do
Florida.
Thank you.
Sure.
See, I do pay attention.
Next item on our agenda, superintendent of schools, Degas, Minot, middle, high, everything?
Okay,
No?
how are you?
Good. When Sue sends us over the record, you might say, suggest to her she, well, I can't think of the word I'm looking for now, but adjust it to 8.5 by 11 versus 8.5 by 14.
Yeah, I had
Or shrink it down.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yep.
That's the first time since I've been here, that we've had such a good financial update, though.
Yes.
And I want to give credit where credit is due. Kim had approached me at the end of one of the meetings and said she would like to do this. And she'd like to do it quarterly, which I appreciate very much, the openness and the offer for it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us. So let me just start with the building project. Currently, to date, we've spent $2,885,306.77. And all of the costs we anticipate will be eligible for reimbursement. We submitted, we've submitted all along. We are now in, MSBA is reviewing our number 6 submittal. We're getting ready to do number 7. The process is that we review it. There are 3 of us that must sign off on it. And then it comes over to the town to be paid, but 3 signatures must occur. And then the chair will sign off prior to anything being submitted, so we have an oversight there. The demo and abatement, we've started the abatement, it's nearly complete. The demolition's going to start probably next week. A little bit started now, but you will no longer see the building in the very near future. It came in, the bid came in at $1,393,333. We estimated it to be 1.6, so we came in under bid. So we're very happy about that. And so far, we've not had any unforeseeable conditions, nor have we had any change orders. So it's moving along nicely.
Excuse me, when a bid comes in like that, which is great, is that a fact, a hard figure? Or is there usually a, you know, or can it be what was bid plus contingency in there?
Well, yeah, there could be contingency, but right now, we're staying with this figure. We haven't
Yeah.
had anything.
That's good, huh?
Yeah, knock on wood.
Yeah.
So our bid package is getting ready to go back out, and that will be for site prep, which will start sometime in the fall. We'll be finished with that and ready to send out then the build package. We've been watching the build packages going out, and we've seen a couple. One came in extremely high for another school district, and then another one came in low. So we're not really sure where we're going to come in. We feel like our timing will be favorable for us, and so we're still running on the side that we're pretty much on target.
There's a lot of competition too out there for school construction. I was reading the papers, there's several others out there going out to bid, et cetera.
Yeah, which is a little, we're hoping that our delay on when we're going to open will put us at a better advantage. So, hoping that's in our favor. If you flip to the paper that I shared with you, you'll see the drawings on the 2nd and 3rd page, and it just is, it kind of gives you where we're at right now. You'll see the overview, and the 3, it looks like fields, they're green, and then they have, it's kickball. What this is really parking. So it's going to be used for 2 purposes. It will be used for parking in the drop-off and pick-up in the afternoon, but during the school day, it will be a play area for our students. And then you'll see the second one, and the second picture is taken from the back. So you're looking at the cafeteria, you're looking from really the soccer field area. It's this one right here. So that's how we're proposing our building will be looking. When you go to the next page, please.
South is the front of the building, right? Is this south?
No.
North,
Southwest? No?
The north is the front of the building.
Okay.
The south is the
Well, okay, I'm looking at
Second
that.
view.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm looking at it upside down, yeah. So this is the south. I think,
This picture is from the south.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's from the south,
from the soccer field, right?
from the soccer field area.
Okay, if you go to 303, you'll see the main entrance, the main lobby. We're still doing some fine tuning of these areas. The cafetorium, and really the inside, the hallways. You know, we've been having discussions about the type of flooring, and the finishes. We do know that what we wanted to do is to be bright, colorful, and certainly student-centered. So that's our goal.
What's a cafetorium?
It is the blend between a cafeteria and an auditorium, so there'll be a stage. MSBA does not allow an auditorium to be built for elementary schools, so it will have dual purpose.
Which is what is in each elementary school now.
Hmm?
Each elementary school now has a cafeteria.
They just won't pay for it.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, you can build
Yeah.
it, but they won't reimburse
It's not
it.
like it's
Right.
no band or
Reimbursement.
anything, but yeah, you're on your own if you do it.
Right.
I think it's been for umpteen years, they've built cafetoriums.
Mhm.
The school my children grew up in was a cafetorium.
Rescue pizza.
It's pretty standard, in elementary level it is.
So
I have one question. Because I'm always looking at the bad guys that are out there. Have anyone taken into consideration, taking care of students should a weirdo get in there? A
yeah,
weirdo, a bunch of weirdos.
Security,
You know, that kind of a thing.
mhm. Yeah, we've done several things for this building. Number one, we have moved the entrances so they're back a little bit. And once you get buzzed in, you're going to be in a holding tank, so to speak.
Okay.
And then, once you're approved to come into the building, at first we were gonna let you just walk right on in the building. We decided that we're moving the doors back a little bit more, and you'll have to come through the office and then out, so that way we still can have you contained before you go out into the, school. We also have looked at the various doors, and they'll all be locked, but we'll have swipes on them where we would like to have students and faculty come in and out, so we will not have to have doors unlocked during the day, except to come in the main area first thing in the morning. We are talking about the type of glass that we will be using in the bottom windows, so if somebody was trying to throw a rock or do something like that, the strength of the glass. And I don't think we've really determined the type of glass yet.
No, that was part of the discussion. But it's important to say also that the people who are designing the building have been meeting with our police department, our fire department. They're very active. They attend the meetings, you know, so they've been involved in the planning of the security at the building, which is really great to see everyone come
Yes.
together for that reason, yeah.
I didn't want the school to be looked at as a place to be scared of, but at the same token, take that stuff into consideration, and it sounds like you are doing that.
Oh, definitely. The school department has a very good relationship with the police department
Yes.
anyway, but they've been very active in planning.
And even just with
Thank
the
you.
with the fire, we're having to put some pavers underneath certain sections next to the building, so the fire truck, should they need to get close to the building, will be able to drive on the ground and not have to worry about sinking in, which just adds to the safety for our students.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions about the building?
What happens with scanning? People coming in,
Scanning.
getting scanned for whatever they may be carrying or not carrying, as well as facial scanning and things of that nature. Is that close enough to being a reality that it would be a consideration?
Like a metal detector or something?
Well, all the kids coming to school, you get scanned over their face, everybody's attended, done.
Do facial recognition as you're going in.
I haven't heard that discussed.
No, we haven't had that type of discussion. That's not to say that we won't moving forward. And some things we're trying to not make a decision now just because we know in 2 years the change that will occur. And we do not want to be locked into
Good.
some things.
Because those areas are advancing very quickly. I'm familiar with facial recognition, and the leaps and bounds they make in months is extraordinary.
Questions?
I'm looking forward to seeing our architect to tell them how beautiful our building is, because I recently saw a new elementary school, I won't say where it is, and it was not that nice looking from the outside. I was really surprised, so I can't wait to tell our architects what a great job they've done.
Well, I remember Rhonda made the discussion, or the comment, that when she drives up the drive, she wants to see a building that looks like it's supposed to be Wareham.
Exactly,
Mm.
exactly. And I think they've done a really good job of doing that.
I
It was a
think the whole-
group effort, but.
Yeah, the whole committee has worked very hard on that.
Right.
And I think the architect has too. We've been fortunate in the choice of architect and also the project manager.
Yes, yes.
Have you discarded the Viking ship yet?
The Viking ship hasn't found a home yet.
It's kind of an inside joke. They brought up some pictures or a pictorial of what different things they could add to the outside, and like in one was a quite large Viking ship, the skeleton of a Viking ship. Thought Dennis got kind of carried away with his pen there.
He did, didn't he?
Oh, see, I thought that was your idea.
Yes, it was. But I didn't mean that grandiose.
Oh, okay. So I wasn't gonna say anything about it, 'cause I thought it was your idea.
So just to share a little bit more information, if I could, about other projects, if you don't.
Certainly.
Okay. We've now have the track is 24-hour surveillance, so we can see everything that's going on the track and it's recorded. The softball field is also being recorded, and we're moving forward with the various parking lots. We're looking at how we're going to do some maintenance on the track as far as with the water. We're just in discussion with the town about that. We're also in discussion with the town about the field, splaying field. I don't know if you're aware, but when it rains from the parking lot, the water just shoots right off, and there's certain areas that are very muddy, and it doesn't serve our field well, so we're looking at how can we divert the water. We've had discussions about Palmer Field and doing some upgrading of there, over behind. Our concern is the amount of traffic at night that uses Palmer Field after hours, and having the type of surveillance that we would need to have if we would choose to do some upgrading. So until we can address those areas, we're a little bit hesitant to invest too much of our finances into that project. So we're still exploring that. Right now with capital, we're looking at replacing the bleachers in the gym over the summer if we are able to free up some funds. But we do know that the bleachers need to be replaced in the gymnasium at the high school. They've served us well for 30+ years, but it's coming time soon. We're looking at HVAC work for the high school, middle school, and we're hoping to have something put together for a major project in the near future. We're looking at updating the adding air conditioning into our cafeteria at the middle school. We have a very good price, and so we're moving forward with that. And we're doing that for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think last fall sent everybody into shock with the temperature. And it's also a safety concern for us. That's really the real purpose, is because we have so much humidity in that building that every fall, and luckily we've been, the spring, we haven't had the humidity, but we have a number of accidents because the floors become very slippery and it's hard for us to keep them dry with the amount of traffic that we have in there. So we feel like by air conditioning the area, that will take care of the problem. We're also seeing more and more students with medical needs that need that air conditioning, and since we house so many programs in the summertime at the middle school, that just seemed to be a wise move for us. So we're certainly taking a look at our facilities and making some upgrades as we are able to do so. As you know, we're fast approaching the end of our fiscal year, and we're looking at how do we close out our existing POs that we're not going to be needing, the money that's encumbered, and get everything clean so the town will have no issues in closing their books. And of course, in September, we begin our budget process again.
What sort of turnover do you have of the teachers? How many teachers do you have? How many new ones will you have? How many are retiring, that sort of thing?
Oh, boy.
I'm sorry, bad question, I'm sorry.
Well, no, I could give you the exact figures if I think we have probably 6 maybe retiring, does that sound right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
Would their replacements be hired already, or be,
we're in process,
Mhm.
yes, I've been.
so
meeting
the
with-
market is okay for teachers now?
Yes, when we do an elementary post, we can get up to 100 to 150 applicants.
Wow.
Wow.
Now, there are some positions that are very hard to find, and you don't get nearly as many, and you hope those people stay with us.
Be very selective, get the best you can get.
Mm-hmm.
We will, we will. We have some new programs coming into the high school next year. We'll be doing building an electric car. It's a semester-long course, and I know, but when you see us riding around.
That wasn't the issue. I know it was in some quarters it's a capital purchase, so it should be on capital outlay. But when it's on the face of it, but when you know the details of it, no, it's an educational.
Yeah.
Well, it's also gonna be disassembled.
And so it'll be reused.
Now that part,
Yeah.
Mhm.
It'll be
I never
reused.
have that much luck with the reassemble.
And then we're adding a gaming course, coding course. MIAA has included gaming into their sports, so I think that would be a very attractive feature for our students. And we met today, we're looking at bringing in some STEAM projects, drones, and there's curriculum with drones, and it will get the students ready to have their license, FAA license, by the time they finish their course. So those are some new things that we're bringing into the district. And I guess if you have questions, happy to answer. But then I'd like to follow with a question about what would be helpful for you as we start coming forward with our budget. What would you like to see?
I think what you're doing now, and like, because one of my questions would be, obviously, you've recovered some money in other expense, not having to run mine it. I get the impression from what you've said, you're utilizing that money to catch up on a lot of your outstanding needs, excuse me, while you have the opportunity. And I think that's outstanding, because that's exactly what I would have suggested doing with those monies.
So can I just say something to that? So when you talk about the money that we saved by closing Minot, that money was put back into our budget to save positions that we would have otherwise. So, because I struggled with that for a few months, thinking, well, where's this money that we're saving? We didn't really save it and put it somewhere.
Oh, no,
it's
you-
in our budget, and we saved positions and other things with that
Yeah.
money. Otherwise, there would have been further cuts at that
But there's
time.
always a net gain from, you don't have to pay any, excuse me, electricity, you don't have to
Mhm.
fuel it,
Mhm.
et cetera. Those monies, obviously, you don't wanna take extra staff on, because of course, when we open that building, it's gonna cost us an awful lot more than it costs to do it, mine it and Degas combined. It's a much, much larger building, and that has to be found in your budget.
Mhm.
And if you allocate those monies to operational costs, such as hiring, et cetera,
Mhm.
you're gonna come up with a shortfall when you need to open that building. And if I recall, Duxbury had a similar problem, and they couldn't open their building for a year.
Mhm.
And this budget for next year is the first that I can ever recall, but we didn't lay anyone off. Right,
Well,
Hmm.
yeah.
The issue you raised, we went over before. I remember, it was quite a while ago.
Yes, we did, yeah.
And we don't wanna find out, we get to the end of the line and ready to open the building, we can't afford it.
Right.
So, from our point of view, I don't know exactly what the process is, but it'd be nice if we had an idea, you know, ballpark of what the budget's gonna look like well before you finalize it and say, here's the budget, which is usually shortly before everybody has to move on it.
Mhm.
I think it might be helpful to you, we can give you some indication of whether this is gonna fly or not. And I think the last time, Bernie, we had this discussion about what it's gonna cost to open the school. Somebody was going to start working on that and be very specific, so we would know we'd have the monies necessary to operate the school when it comes time.
One of the things that we've been doing in the committees that we're working on, asking what the cost would be to run, like the heating, the electric, et cetera. And so we have the people that are the engineers putting those figures together for us. Because you're exactly right, I would anticipate this building, when we open it, is going to, we need to plan for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The other thing that we're doing is also, we know we have X amount of money to buy equipment, supplies, so when we move into that building, we only have a limited amount, and being able to say, well, we wanna buy this and this and this, and if it's not in the budget, I don't know where it's going to come from. So what we're trying to do is to look at consumables or items that we know we're going to need to open that building, and buy them ahead of time with some of the money that we have from not having mine it going, and then just store them. For example, physical education equipment. Now, scooters aren't gonna change that much in 2 years. But if I can make those purchases now, with the money I can buy a better product to open the building with, so like desk or other types of items that we're going to need. So we're just trying to plan this to be very efficient and very practical, so when we get ready to really, we can buy something with quality.
Yeah, I think what we talked about before, we don't wanna find out that there's gonna be a 25% increase in the budget because we have this new building to operate, because that's not gonna work.
Yeah, and don't forget, we're shutting down a building too. at
I
Deacon's.
understand, but I agree with Bernie, I think it's gonna be more expensive than this one big one than 2 others.
You're opening a 3-story building, 3.5-story building, because you got that wing, excuse me, where the sped people are, and you're closing a 1-story building.
But we've got the LED lighting and such too, you know.
Don't count it all on
I
that,
think
you know.
it's gonna take some real careful planning, and
Yeah.
the sooner people have an idea of what it's gonna cost to run this building when it's done, the better, because we're gonna have to plan for it.
Yeah.
We got time,
Yeah.
but we can't do it in a month.
But I know that question has come up a couple months ago when we were starting this planning, because we were going through the questioning about the air conditioning and whether we want the whole building air conditioned, et cetera, et cetera. One of the questions was, what is the cost of operating an entire building? AC, I mean, it's gonna be duct. All we have, if we wanna go forward, I'm not sure, I missed the last couple of meetings, did they ascertain they were gonna air condition the whole building? That was
That's
in
not
the
been
We
discussion.
haven't made that decision.
Yeah.
So Kim, when Deacon's closes, all of the personnel that are there, students, are going to go to the new school. So one fast way of getting expenses is to say at the end of this June, or when Sue has time, to take all the expenses that were incurred at Deacon's and say all of those carry forward to Minot. So that would at least be a starting point, whether it's 80% or 110%, we don't know, but it's some percentage around 100. And then that makes it just a little bit easier to begin planning for when Minot does open.
I think, Jerry, if you look, I didn't look into great detail, but the school department is still maintaining Minot and Deacon's as separate entities. Even though they're in the high school, in the middle school, the staffing, et cetera, is still being attributed in an accounting line for Minot. So they haven't blended anything. They still, I can identify the separate costs, as you point out, and it's a continuation. And yeah, I think that's a smart way they're doing it.
Right, like including the custodians, like there's a minor custodian, you know, attached to that school, that's in the middle school.
Are they charging for space?
Are we charging
I mean,
Minot?
how are you accounting for the space that these kids are taking up in
Yes,
the
we
middle
do,
school and high school?
we do charge Minot for a percentage of being at the middle school.
Okay.
The other thing is that what we're watching, we're doing 3-year projections as far as historically, and then to see how we're seeing our trends with our use of electricity, our use of heat, etc. So hopefully we'll have a little bit, we can do some projections when we get ready to move forward, just because we have some historical data.
Do I understand that the preschool is going to be, the number of students in preschool, you're gonna try to get that as a higher number and a more active part of our education system
Well, we would
with the new school?
Well, we would love to. Unfortunately, MSBA held us to 5 classrooms. And so
You can always put a portable.
yeah, I'll just move on.
Don't say
Yeah, so right now, we just don't have the space.
That's the most important part of your
I-
education
I
system,
know.
for crying out loud, from 18 months up to 6 years.
And we've done,
Don't let them get away with that.
well, we've done, studies, and we see that kids that go to preschool score significantly higher than.
That's absolutely basic. I mean,
Unfortunately, MSBA does a lot of dictating,
or
and
you just say,
leverages-
hey, guys, you're screwed. I'm not accepting that answer. Real, I'm serious, I know I'm sounding crazy.
We don't
But-
disagree with you, but unfortunately, they don't allow that to go forward.
Unless
So-
we wanted to pay for it.
Yeah, at our own expense.
Yeah.
Well, they're,
And we only got 90.4 mil, unless you wanna kick in a mil, no?
I know you guys are doing a better job and you're focusing, and the results of your focus are paying results. But let's get even more.
And then finally, I would let you know that we've gotten some, with our E-rate money, we've been able to do some major rewiring of our buildings, with Cat 1, Cat 5 cable, I believe.
Cat 5.
Yeah, right.
And we'll be doing the high school, and with the money that was voted at Springtown meeting, we'll be outfitting all new cameras at the high school and a few other areas. So when we're finished, there will probably not be any areas on our campus that you will not be visible. We're also going to be hooking in with the police, so the police can have access to our campus.
How often do people review the film or whatever it is?
Well, it gets anytime there's an incident, it gets reviewed, but I'll also tell you that I can sit at my desk and I can see what's going on in the buildings. And I review it daily, because when I look up, I see what, I check that out.
When you walk into the high school, the person who sits at the front of the high school has cameras, a camera.
And it's more after hour stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are a lot of businesses that have these closed circuit TVs and nobody ever looks at this stuff until it's too late.
Yeah. Ours are monitored.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're monitored over at the police station also, are they not? They're live over there, as they are in your office.
Not quite yet, they are
Not
going
quite yet.
to go.
I hope you got good lenses.
Good lenses?
Well, you ever see a bank photo that's blurry? I can get a better shot on Mars than I can of a bank photo.
Yeah, we have pretty good actually excellent cameras, so I could zoom in on somebody and see what time it was by their watch.
Great.
Oh, big sister is watching.
Yeah.
I'll be sure not to go to the school.
Yes, yeah.
So, well, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else you'd like to say? I think it's all encompassing and explanation.
I'm glad you came. I think this is very important.
I would like to say, I mean, as a member of a school committee, that I think it's great that committees are meeting and communicating and.
It gives us a lot of background, like Derek was sitting there, and we get a lot of issues. Now, I've been in his office 2-3 times a week at times, but, and I get background, but the committee as a whole doesn't, and we don't exchange it either, because that issue with the electric car you were buying, as I said, on the face of it, if we heard about it, it is, no, it's not supposed to be in your budget, it's supposed to be capital. But when I looked at it deeper, I said, oh, well, of course. A lot of people don't understand or know what the background is. And this is a good opportunity for us to expand those who do know. And hopefully, when you're in the coffee shop, if someone asks a question, you can jump right in there.
Yeah.
Right, with the correct information.
Correct. Wonderful, thank you very much. Was there anything else anyone has before they leave? No, thank you very much, Kim.
Thank you.
I look forward to my next visit.
Excellent. Okay, our next item, recap of town meeting. Input, how did everybody think it went? Any suggestions, any criticisms, by all means.
Before we go there, can I want to reiterate, I don't know how long before the school opens, but I am extremely concerned that they're not working hard enough on what the operating budget for this building is going to be. And it would be.
It's opening in mid-year, right? Did I
Yeah,
understand?
December.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I just
Which
think
is more difficult.
I think it would be criminal to spend this kind of money on the physical structure and not be able to do what we want to do with it. So if we have time to figure out where the money's gonna come from, because we're gonna need more money than we're spending now, I assure you. We need to know as soon as possible. Don't they have consultants they're working with that do this for a living?
Supposedly, the architects and the OPM have staffing or access to people who can figure those things out. And yes, that's a critical issue. I've always been concerned about that.
Oh, how long before the school opens?
2 years, approximately 2 years.
So they ought to have something preliminarily, 6 months from now, no later, so we can at least start looking at what the ballpark is gonna be. It's going to be more expensive. I've never seen a building open that was cheaper than this before.
No. But the biggest part of it is going to be staffing. That's going to be your biggest cost.
Okay,
And so the school department can look and say, all right, we have 28 classrooms, we have to put teachers in them, and they can make a judgment based on that. From the engineering end of it, the engineers can come up with an estimate of what it's going to cost to operate the physical building for utilities and so on. But I think the school department has to look at, do we have enough teachers? Are we going to be expanding our teacher inventory, staff, when we open the new school, or are we going to contract it, or is it going to stay the same?
we need to plan way in advance for this stuff.
But,
I understand it'll change, but you gotta plan.
right.
I'm challenge you to your supposition that it's gonna cost more.
I have never in my life, I've worked in a large institution my entire professional career, where they opened 30 buildings. Not one of them costs less to run than the one that it replaced. Its technology changes, prices change. You know, their electric,
I mean, what you
I
got-
assume the electric bill 5 years from now in this new school could be 30% higher than it is now, just because of the computers and all the technology they use that didn't even exist 2 years ago.
Just by
I'm
inflation
just
alone.
saying, you know, and what happens is, then you start cutting back on the annual maintenance that you need to do. And you're 5 to 8 years into the building, it's
You
a
gotta do
dump.
something major.
It's a dump. And I just seen this over and over and over again. I think we're kidding ourselves if we think we're gonna save money.
So the elements of cost are the energy to physically run the building?
The operational
I
cost.
mean, it sounds like the people part of it.
The maintenance, well, the people part, they're gonna be a lot more expensive. You're gonna need different kinds of teachers. I assume over the last 5 years,
But this
the
is,
makeup of the
this
teaching
is
staff
grades
has
1
changed.
through 3.
I don't care what it is.
4.
Pre-K to 4.
Huh?
Pre-K to 4.
Pre-K to 4. So,
Look, we can,
I mean,
if
I'm
somebody
not-
can come back and say, this is what we're gonna save, that would be great. It isn't gonna happen. That's just my view.
Well, if you had to put a mark on the wall, would you say it's a 10% increase, a 15% increase? How many, what are we talking about dollar
I
wise,
don't
you
know.
think?
We
I
don't
think a
know.
lot of it depends on the labor and how many teachers are gonna do
Inflation.
things like that.
Et cetera.
The teacher part should not get higher, just because we've moved into a new building.
Unless the number of
Because the student body-
students,
huh?
unless the student body grows.
No, no,
Yeah, and the
also
student body's gonna grow in the preschool area, I hope.
It's also the availability, the number of classrooms.
And right now, the student population is going down across the country, at least
Tom,
across the state.
You may be right. I don't think you are, but you might. All I'm suggesting is, no later than 6 months from now, we should have a pretty good idea, working knowledge of what it's gonna be. And
I'm not
continue
arguing
to
that.
refine it in case it doesn't turn out to be the best scenario at all. That's all I'm saying.
But you were alluding to a conversation we had several months ago, and one question was, what savings do they realize from the operation of Minot? And our concerns has been, do not take those monies and begin absorbing it with staffing, because you can't get the money back. However, if you leave the money there, and they should, and spend it on improvements, replacing bleachers, cameras, wiring, etc., that money will still, in a percentage-wise anyway, be there in 2 years. Because now you can redirect it back to what it was originally allocated for.
Yep.
That's my only concern, that they begin absorbing staffing. And that's a good possibility, and then we're stuck. As I pointed out, we won't be able to open it up because we don't have the money in the budget. Our budgets, as you know, are increasing only by hundreds of thousands of dollars, not by millions.
And I think we ought to pay a lot of attention to preventive maintenance and what it's gonna be and what we need to do, because I'm telling you, we're put $90 million into this, and 8 years down the line, it's gonna get done.
The risk is, what are you putting in new technology that may not work? Is it, and I don't know any, I mean, I know zero about the building. But I think the head count for teachers, we ought to be very critical. We always should be very critical of making sure that those are well justified.
I can dig out my notes. I've missed the last couple of meetings, but I've been in this since the inception. Dave and I both have. I'll dig out all my notes. Because MSBA dictates the number of classrooms and the student per teacher ratio, so that it dictates the number of classrooms you have. And my concern is, irrespective of the projections, they have a fixed figure in mind. Do we have, or can we afford the staff to man all those classrooms? when it comes time to open up.
Do we have the head count? Do they have the number of students?
They have projections, MSBA
I mean-
projections, they're not ours.
I thought the building was good for 25-year projection of demand.
Is the student
50.
population going down because kids are going out of district, or just
No, just the number of kids.
demographics?
Demographically, it's decreasing.
So, but there's where I think we gotta keep the pressure on, because if you add one, one here and one there, that grows, and it hits you forever at a
Well, we
much
got that
higher
project
rate.
coming online, got the project off of Cranberry Highway coming online in 2 years
Right?
with children.
Lots of
For
kids.
children.
Yeah,
And
We
there's
can-
other construction going on.
We can solve the whole issue by just closing down the school department and send everybody in school choice. Cost us $5,600 per student to go to school choice. Cost us $15,000 per student to keep them here. Let's face it, we've all been in private industry. We're a board of directors. What's our decision gonna be? Outsource.
Well, as long as Kelly's note says within
He's
6
working
months,
for
we're gonna expect the preliminary hurdle for the opening the new building. That's what we should do.
Now we can ask
Man.
hard questions, that's all.
Well, we should ask the school committee to do
Yeah.
that.
I'll look back at
Well,
my
I mean,
notes and I'll also
that's what,
ask.
they're gonna provide it, we're not gonna provide it,
No.
but that would be the opening look.
I didn't think so.
I'll ask our OPM, he's got the projections. I'll ask Chad.
Okay.
He'll give me all the charts. I probably got them, but it's just a myriad of data. So I'm gonna create for the projections, specific projections.
We should be able to project the student body and the teachers, the whole deal.
Yeah.
And then, just like you're watching the construction costs, you say, hey, okay, what's changing? And how do we react to that change?
I have a question of the school committee member who chooses to remain.
I wanted to hear about town meeting.
Okay, we'll go on.
I don't want to take it.
That's it.
Okay.
Nothing else.
No,
I'll get the information for us, too. Town meeting, recap, criticisms. If there's a compliment, I'd like to hear that too.
no, I think the readings went well. I think the discussions were good. Again, as always, we get crunched at the end as to what the actual motions are that we're going to be discussing and what the final numbers are. That's always a problem.
It is, and it doesn't necessarily mean they aren't available either.
Right. But I think that's one of the issues. I think the town meeting, the booklet that was put together was beautifully done. I know there are less expensive ways of doing it, but it's a very nice product. You have a copy of it there.
I talked with Derek, obviously, we overran our budget. I talked with Derek about it,
By
everybody
how
handled
much?
it, 1,200. I had initial
We
price.
couldn't have a town meeting.
I had an initial estimate, it would have been within our budget, in color, 100 pages. It ballooned up to over almost 150 pages. My suggestion is that fall town meeting, instead of putting out a polished copy, we do a copier copy. It isn't gonna contain a lot of detailed information, et cetera, or supporting documentation, and we go with that. The spring town meeting, we do a nice copy with this, maximum of 100 pages. Does not contain all the detailed information we usually put in it, which accumulates all pages and the like. As we noted, one person stood up and said, it's very nice, but I'm gonna throw it away when I get it home. But I would suggest we go through that process. That way, and all the detailed information, such as we produce in the budget, instead of having all the separate lines, how much gas, how much oil, et cetera. We'll leave that to, on our website. will just produce the lines per department, wages and expenses. No one questioned any of the documentation of the departments when Claire called, and this is the second year in a row. They haven't questioned anything, not even the school department.
Yeah, which is a shame.
Is there a possibility of just at the end of the report saying, for more detailed information, go to the finance committee website?
Mm-hmm.
And have all the 75 pages there of detail that you would have put on,
Yes.
have it there?
That was all on the website.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I,
Yeah. And
Thank you.
Bruins going.
thank you, Mike.
Yeah, see.
Sure, everybody wants Bruins.
Yeah. But I also, in my discussion with Derek, I explained that I'd rather do it in color, this one, because his charts and everything, pie charts, et cetera, are much clearer than if they try to read a spreadsheet.
Mhm.
I agree with everything you said. All I think is we should try to figure out what would be most useful to the citizens of the town, regardless of what the cost is. I mean, $1,200, what's the budget for this town for a year?
60 million.
66 million?
If we could do it cheaper, great, but we should figure out what we think or what other people think is the most useful information to give them. And that's what we should give them.
I think the town deserves something like this. I think if they're gonna show up to town meeting, they should have something like that. Perhaps it carries just too much information than they
It'd
really
be
want.
great if we could get it to them in advance of the town meeting.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I've never lived in a town that does it like this.
Marion puts out one little book, like so, mails it to every registered voter.
That's what happens in Canton.
We did that before, years ago.
This is $8 per copy.
But at least you can make it available, somebody could pick it up.
Yes, that's why I was concerned about when they have the dates for when the warrant closes and all, that we would have sufficient time to put this together. I like to try and get it back in town, printed a week before. I drop them off at the library, town clerk's office, selectmen.
At least, yeah.
And the only other alternative, when they said mailing, in Stoughton, when I was there, it was a representative town meeting, so you had a specific group, and so everybody got it mailed to them, and that was fine.
Other communities do mail them out. I know Milton mails them out to all voters, and other towns do also, but it's not as extensive a document as this.
Right, it's usually done in like, almost like newspaper print and
Right.
pretty simple.
Yeah.
But
So,
at least you have it well in advance and you can read
Right.
it and you know what's coming up.
yes.
I know you went to the whatever the mass group is that
The Mass
represents.
Municipal Association.
Yeah, and sat in on the Northborough presentation. That is the best presentation of what the hell is happening in the town, justifying every element of it. And with a particular emphasis on head count, and a particular emphasis on the history of how we got there and where we're going. This makes this look like second grade.
Yeah, it does.
And the pressure should be on Derek and the financial group to come out with a document that is similar to what Northborough has. If they're buying a new truck, this is what the new truck looks like, this is what it's gonna have. I mean, it just has it. You can go and every citizen knows about it. Now, it just so happens that the finances in this town are a hell of a lot better than they have been in the past. And I think those who attend the town meeting feel confident that a good job is being done. But if you ask them the specific as to why they feel confident, they can't answer.
No.
Well,
With
why
that
don't we
Northborough
just
thing-
get that presentation, give it to Derek and say, do this?
I mean,
I'll look to,
huh?
How hard is
I'll
that?
look that up.
You just
And,
go online, you can look it
yeah.
up, you can read it.
Yeah, Bourne, in fact, it does a very good one with the current town manager.
Warren
Town
does a
administrator.
good one. I looked at theirs this year.
Yeah.
They had a very good
But
financial.
the key is head count. How many people we've got in every position? And ours won't be as large because we don't have a fire department and we don't have a water department, but It's a very, very comprehensive document that anybody who's curious enough can understand that we're playing with the cards face up. And that's what it should be.
I have the philosophy that it should contain all the information possible that any question may answer. And I have to think that because disappointingly I find out, oh, gee, what page? Okay. And they throw it away. And I think all the effort we go into to put that all together and they don't read it. It's disappointing, but I have the satisfaction to say, if you did want the information,
It's there, yeah.
it was there.
How many attended the meeting, do you recall?
I think there were just a little over 200.
200, okay, and how much did it cost us to print all this stuff?
2,600?
About 4,200.
So, what is that?
Oh, I'm sorry, no, we have a
So
$3,000.
how much is that per person that attended?
$10.
How we could pay them off and tell them to stay away?
and
And
get
not
off
print
cheap.
anything, you know?
It's 2,400.
2,400 for this printing, because, and that doesn't, we have a $3,000 budget, and we had about 1,200 for the first printing of the fall town meeting. For the copier that didn't work, that Kelly went up 3-5 times.
How many questions were asked by someone referring to getting up, referring to what we handed out and then ask a question?
Well, a question relevant to the finance, which we're primarily responsible for,
Yeah.
or how their sign is positioned.
Well, start with the
Well,
fine.
I mean, there was more questions on the bylaw
Sign
changes
bylaws.
than,
Right.
I mean,
But that's true, you'll always get that. It's always,
That if this Northborough, wherever it is, if we want Derek to do that, that isn't just a one-time-a-year report. It's the way they do their accounting and planning, and it just is helpful to us if they could get, you know, one of the things that I find frustrating is Derek comes in and gives us these reports, but I don't have any context for any of this. You know, from meeting to meeting, I can't remember what the last one was, and it's not actually compiled anywhere. And with, here's where we've been, here's where we are now, and this is what we're anticipating in the future. So I think it would be probably good for us to do something like that.
it might put a package together that one could follow all year.
Yeah,
mhm.
I started in January, we were discussing this issue. It may not come to fruition until September, but it's on the table already.
Right.
You know, and it's how it moves along through the process.
I get frustrated because I don't see a monthly thing and percent versus budget and things of that nature, but I guess that's just the nature
No,
of
the
the
school
way.
department does
Huh?
that. The school department does that monthly.
Well, what they gave us recently was, or we just got, was
Right.
the best
But they
I've
do
seen.
it, but they do it every month. That's.
You know, they have the monthly.
They
But
meet
they
twice,
don't
but
do
one of the
their, they don't
meetings.
do a monthly cash, or a monthly projection of what the expenses are gonna be. You
Yeah.
don't see, this is my budget for May,
Yeah. And
I
then
don't
they-
think, I just say, I
And
think,
then they say,
they
"Hey,
just
this
say-
is what we spent so far and this is what we have left.
yeah, but they don't, when they start the budget, they don't say, September, this is what it's gonna be, and we follow it through, and then just say, in September, we were expecting to spend 100,000, and we spent 102,000 or something in each
Right, but they do
department.
it kind of by percentages because
Yeah.
last September
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
spent
yeah,
this
you
much.
can see where the overages are, so I
Yeah,
assume
yeah,
they know.
I mean, all of this is going through the accounting department, so they can take last year out and just give it to you by how it is by month. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, the only
They
distortion you have
show a
is,
percent change and then show the actual versus what the budget was.
the only time you get a distortion is when they'll have an expenditure in September and they'll spend 100% of it and it shows zero for the rest of the year. So you can't amortize that out over 12 months.
But we can learn that stuff.
Indeed, it's simple enough. We have Jerry here, he can explain it all to us.
Well, if we could get that, the same type of report from Derek, or the accounting department here, that Sue gives to the school committee, then we could follow along, I can follow along the school committee monthly, because the reports are up there monthly and year to date. So if we got something from Derek, monthly and year to date, then we would have the picture. All he's gotta do is mirror somewhat similar to what Sue does.
And you may wanna just say, give me the police department and, you know, the
Well, it would be-
municipal maintenance, some of the bigger departments, and the others you can give,
It's
just
all
get
in
a
one
lump.
it's all in one general ledger. If they do one, they can do them all.
Yeah, no, I realize that, but
Yeah.
Because
to
when we
to
get our
get them
review.
started,
Hmm,
get it started.
Sure.
And Derek has done that.
Yeah.
No, but it's not every month. That,
Right.
because you were pushing him on it, I know that.
It's just a discipline.
I'm sure by the 10th of the month, the 10th of the next month, they ought to have the numbers.
Well, they have to produce a
So
year.
then we have our meeting the third
We have
week
to
or
close
something
every
like
month.
that, then you're bang.
They can actually do an end of year by July 10th. There's just adjusting entries the CPA's gotta come in and do. But you don't have to wait for the end of year until December.
Right.
You can get a preliminary end of year July 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing, he's reluctant to get it because it's not certified.
Neither are the other 11.
No, and the reason we delayed this year, school department was slow in
Yeah,
delivering
but
it.
at least we know if there's gonna potentially be a big problem or not. Right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, we can
it's just
anticipate.
context, doesn't matter if it's precisely correct.
Okay, the other issue I wanted to bring up is the appointments, reappointments. Claire isn't here, I hoped she would have been to answer the question. A couple of us are going to be recycled or reset because we currently do not have 3 and 3 and 3 terms expiring as a cycle. Because several years ago, the whole committee quit, left Pat.
Oh, yeah. He's
Yeah,
the only
Pat all
one
by
that
herself.
stayed, yeah.
Where'd everybody go? And when they reappointed or appointed new people, they didn't reset the timing for them to fill in unexpired
And
terms.
I didn't come back.
So we're gonna make that adjustment, but I think with Stuart, you reapplying, then I think, and David, the only one we have to replace will be John, because you're filling Ellis's term.
Until the end of next year.
Right, so all the dates will be reset. Glenn has reapplied, Dominic has reapplied, so I think we're good. And
Is
you
Joan
want-
gonna stay?
No, Joan said no, I was disappointed, but she has a definite family situation.
Yeah.
And we have a new applicant, he's from Stoughton, he served on the finance committee in Stoughton. He managed the golf course, which was a municipally owned golf course up in Stoughton. He's retired and he moved down here, so he's applied. He's the only applicant we have. And coincidentally, we have only one vacancy, so I think it's gonna be a go.
Good.
But that's it, any other questions?
Hole in one.
Next meeting. When are we
next
meeting
meeting.
next?
Can I make a suggestion for
No.
meetings? Okay. We know every month we're gonna have a spreadsheet from Sue. Okay. And if we get one from Derek, if we met the last Wednesday of every month, just to review those two spreadsheets, then we would have a sense of what goes on during the summer.
Okay, there was something else I believe you asked for.
Today,
Yes.
the CPC.
CPC reserves and
Yeah,
funds.
Yeah.
The amounts in the four pots.
Mhm.
They have that all the time.
Yeah.
Sandy has that.
Sandy has, we
It's a
just
big
don't see
number.
it that often.
It's a big deal.
Okay,
If it's appropriate, in other words, one of the things, we walk away and sell in May and walk away, but we don't meet, we meet we don't meet June, July, August typically. And we miss out on all the financial that is happening. So if we could get like the spreadsheet or the PDF a week, if we meet the last Wednesday, by the middle of that, 2 weeks ahead of time, they should have the Excel or PDF ready.
Okay,
We could get it and walk in and have had a week or so to look at them. And we could have a very short meeting if it's just nothing other than to update ourselves as to what happened the previous month in the financial sense.
Good idea.
now why don't I find out when they, they do their year-to-date,
Or
Or
month,
monthly.
month to date.
and schedule a meeting a week after that date.
Or if you schedule it the last Wednesday of every month, you know for sure you should have it.
Okay. That would be the 26th of June. You just chose the next meeting date. Is that all right with everyone?
Okay, by me,
Next meeting is June 26th.
Maybe a little inebriated when I get here, that's when my house is closing, hopefully.
Drink some juice for all of us, ain't it?
As long as you share.
okay, make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, seconded. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Vote.
Can I have 5 minutes with you after?
Sure.